Welcome back to the Kelowna Real Estate Podcast. I'm your mortgage broker host, Taylor Atkinson.
And I'm your real estate agent host, Matt Glenn. What's happening today, Taylor?
Hey, I was at a lender presentation yesterday and they bring in a CMHC rep. Like awesome information they're providing at these events. I'm going to ask you a skill testing question. I would never have gotten this right. It is like it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. So CMHC data across Canada, what do you think the average age is for a first-time home buyer?
Okay, I saw something like this. It was like way older than you thought. It was like 55, right, or something?
So it's 36 across Canada, 39 in BC, which to me is like, yeah, pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, so that's the age of the first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was like the average age. That's the one I saw was like of a regular home buyer. It was like 50.
Yeah, so like somebody just getting into the market, which is pretty wild. And then 20% of people buying their first home have a gifted down payment, which I actually thought that would probably be higher.
Yeah, I would think that too. Yeah.
And then the collective household income for those first-time home buyers, one household unit, whether a couple or solo, was $144,000, which again, I thought was like fairly high. So pretty interesting data out there, but we're projected to like see more first-time home buyers in the market with some of the programs and incentives that are coming out.
And younger?
They didn't really specify on the age, I would assume, but yeah, I mean, we do have a younger population coming in a little bit, but yeah, some interesting stuff. Today, we have on Derek Funk from Lawrenson Walker, residential appraisal company throughout BC and Alberta. I work with these guys a lot. They're awesome. Yeah, just very like straightforward, transparent, quick, good communication. One thing I'll say that's really annoying to me about the appraisal process, and this is not anything to do with Derek, but just to explain to the listener and clients, is like most of the time we have to order a blind appraisal. So it's arm's length, you can't get involved, manipulate it, whatever. It's not like I can just pick Derek's company all the time unless it has to go direct to a lender. Part of that process is basically just, working with someone you don't really know. And a lot of clients come back to me and ask me for the report. We can't provide that. Like it's technically property of the lenders. So again, just something for people to keep in mind. Like,
are you allowed to tell them what they came back with for value?
Yeah. So we can discuss that. We just can't provide the report. There's like a liability there and we're legally not allowed to. So just a part of the education process. Like these guys are a really good resource and like a necessary part of the buying and selling process. Everyone has to kind of just let them do their job and not try and get involved.
It does kind of make sense that you can't just pick the appraiser all the time.
Yeah.
Although you can with some, like, is it certain lenders that don't let you do that?
Certain lenders, they have an approved list and you're allowed to pick from that approved list. The appraisal still has to be sent directly to the lender. But yeah, the blind ordering system is pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
One of the takeaways I really liked, which Derek said on the show, was, opportunities in the market. And, this kind of seems simple, but he took it one step further. He was like, don't buy the nicest house on the street, but also don't like overspend on your property if it is not going to get the value back from it that you're looking for in an investment. So he's like, don't spend $20,000 on a fridge if the house shouldn't have a $20,000 fridge. So that's probably like a common thing he sees in Kelowna, I would imagine.
I'd imagine that too. Yeah, people like their stuff.
Yeah.
So actually, full disclosure, Becca and I had a house downtown that just like looked like one of the other houses, but we just renovated the shit out of it. So when he walked into this house, it was just like totally did not fit at all. It definitely was probably who he was talking about with that one. So
I mean, if you're going to live there for a while, for sure. But if you're looking for an appraiser to come in and be like, oh, yeah.
If you're doing it for the value, probably not great.
If you're looking to sell it or refi, like he's probably kind of between a rock and a hard place, being like, I can't add it.
The most annoying part about mine is we ended up selling to a developer who's going to like tear it down. So it's like, hey.
Yeah, you should have put in the contract, like comes with no fridge, no appliances.
I was going to do that when we leave, like take the cabinets, take the fridge, take the appliances, everything. Yeah. But he's got to rent it out for a few years. He's renting it out, so couldn't even really do that. So we enjoyed it while we had it.
Yeah, hey, it's fun to do those projects. We're actually getting a appliance package right now. I'll say, we went around a bit, man. Trail Appliances. There's a guy named Dave there.
Yeah.
Legend. We were in there for like 2.5 hours. I thought I was in there for 20 minutes. The amount of knowledge, like I was blown away
Yeah.
how smart dishwashers are now. He knows everything, man. If you guys are looking to get appliances, go see Dave at Trail. He was like unreal.
That's a nice plug.
We're not getting a $20,000 fridge. I'll say that.
Well, Dave wasn't good enough then.
No, he was too good. He probably said the same thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. This episode, like every episode, is sponsored by Century 21 Assurance Realty. We are growing. We're growing north. We're growing east. Basically all over the interior. So if you're a new agent or an agent looking for a change, give us a call. Or if you're a buyer or a seller looking for an agent, call Century 21 Assurance Realty.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy the episode.
Okay, Derek, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, so we like to start our show just kind of what's your perfect Friday look like? What's productive for you, gives you energy leading into the weekend? And what do you do for fun?
Oh, well, depends on the season, but I mean, a perfect Friday from the business standpoint. I always feel Friday afternoons are our busiest day of the week just to, meet all our clients' deadlines, a lot of subject removals. As you know, the appraisal is usually the last piece of the puzzle to get the deal done. And it's usually rushed, especially if they're unsure of the lender they're using. So it's always a bit of a rush to get some of these deadlines completed. A successful Friday to me and a productive one is just meeting all of our clients' deadlines by that 5 p.m. cutoff usually. We've got a pretty large admin team, so they usually stick around if we know we're going to be a little delayed. At least we can get the report in. They can upload it. If our clients need a verbal and just need a bit of peace of mind, and I know the value is going to hit the purchase price, I'll usually reach out, give them a heads up that, the purchase price seems fine here. So as long as we meet our clients' deadlines, usually if it's a purchase, I'm pretty happy on a Friday and our clients are happy and we could move on into the weekend.
Yeah, I will say on that note, you guys have been great, like communication wise, and the deal flow basically goes from Matt, who probably has no stress, to like offloading some of that down to the broker and then down to the appraiser. And the timelines just get tighter and tighter. So yeah, apologies from everyone in the industry.
It's better than the COVID days because, I thought the market was going to tank and it did the complete opposite. And we just couldn't keep up, in 2021, 2022. It just, like everybody in this industry, we were overworked. And I would get calls from our clients saying, "Where's the appraisal?" I'm like, "Well, you haven't even ordered it yet." So, "Well, I need it today." I'm like, "Well, you got to submit this in." So it's always good when our clients reach out ahead of time. They'll either email me direct or text me for any of the Okanagan files and give me a heads up. And at least I can reach out to the appraiser and say, "Hey, here you go. Where this is coming through, reach out for an appointment right now. They need this by end of day or tomorrow morning." At least we can get started on the file and ensure we can reach that deadline. So that's one thing we do at Lawrenson Walker is communicate a lot with our broker clients. That's what we focus our business a lot on, is just communication from start to finish from the file. It's a long process actually, from when we get the order, from when the payment link's sent out, from when the appointment's booked, from the second review process that we offer with our firm, just to ensure that everything's correct. There's a lot that goes into these reports. So there's quite a bit that actually goes in the appraisal process that, is kind of forgotten about. So we've got a solid team. So it really helps.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about Lawrenson Walker? Like, obviously I know who you are. You guys have been great for me in the Okanagan. Is it Alberta, BC you guys cover now?
Yeah. So the company started back in the 90s. My partner, Lee Walker, took it over a while back now. And we were mainly based in Vancouver, Fraser Valley. And then our other partner, Chantel, opened up an office in Calgary over in Alberta, and she's expanded out to Edmonton and now Lethbridge. And I was in Vancouver at the time, and I said, "Lee, we have to expand this business more." So he said, "Well, why don't we go to the Okanagan?" I actually brought that up to him. So we came up here and we purchased the company up here over 5 years ago now. So I made the move with the family from Olympic Village. So never look back.
What a sacrifice, eh? For company, man.
Wine country.
You really had to take one for the team there.
Yeah. So one thing is that we have done a lot of expansion in the last 6 years, but we do have managers and partners in all of our major locations that are experts in all these locations. So, if you've got an Okanagan appraisal coming through, you're going to be dealing with me who actually lives in that region and follows like the market trends, knows what's going on in the community, and has a really good sense of idea what's going on in the market here. So, if you go to Alberta, you're going to be speaking and dealing with Chantel, who's from there, lives there. So you're not getting someone from Toronto that's, working on a file that doesn't really know the market. So, you're in good hands, whatever region you're in, because you're dealing with an expert in that territory.
Nice.
Yeah. And can you pull back the curtain a little bit in terms of like being on an approved list? Because it's not like you can just do your 4-year degree, get the appraiser certificate, and then you're good to go, right? You need to be registered with certain lenders and have the capability to be doing certain properties. So I remember one of the first ones I used you guys with was on raw land up in Big White, which not very many people had the ability to do. So what's kind of the process and benefit of using somebody that has, access or approval for most of the lenders?
I think it's just being in the industry for so long, like Lee has been, and building these, relationships with the lenders, the private lenders, the MIC lenders, and just building a trusted relationship and, showing them we know what we're talking about because we have been doing this for many years now. We've got very experienced people on our team. And it's taken a long time to get on the approved list for, we work with the majority of the lenders across the board here. We have great relationships with them. We talk to them on the phone. It's always good for our clients as well, because if they order an appraisal and they need it moved from one lender to another, likely they don't have to reorder the appraisal because we're likely on that other lender's approved list. So it's not easy to get on these lists, but I think it's just a lot of trust and experience. And that's the reason why we're, on the majority of all lenders across, the country.
Yeah. I'll point out another thing using you guys. So generally, like for certain lenders, we have to use a blind ordering system software so we don't have access. But I find the hardest part about that is the client gets a payment notification, and usually it'll be super low for some appraisers just to kind of, I don't know, win the work, or that's how they bid it. And then like it doubles the very next day. And then you have to explain to the client, like, yeah, the fee just went up because it's a luxury home or it has market rents or whatever.
Yeah.
You guys seem to consistently have more transparency and like, here's the fee, it is what it is right from the start. So yeah, just appreciate you guys doing that.
Yeah, a few years back up here in the Okanagan, I set all of our fees for every location, whether it was going to be like a travel charge down to a Soyuz, because it's a bit of a drive from Kelowna. So I wanted to post like our actual fee that you're going to be charged without tacking on the travel after the fact. So I know a lot of the blind ordering systems, how they work, it might just get selected by a cheaper firm. But our rates that are posted on Solidify or whatever, AMC it is, that's the fee it's going to be. Like you say, unless it's going to be some kind of high-end luxury waterfront, then we kind of base the fee on like, the amount of hours it's going to take to actually get that file done. And if it is more complex property, I know we try to get appraisals done within 24 hours of viewing the property, but sometimes those do take longer. And I don't mind if we do take an extra day or two to just ensure we get the right value, right? It's more important to get the right value rather than just push these appraisals out. So
yeah.
And we'll give our clients a heads up, if it's going to take a bit longer, we're doing our best, but some just take longer, especially here in the Okanagan. There's not a lot of cookie cutter properties and very limited sales on a lot of complex properties on acreages and waterfront homes. So they just typically take longer and just take more time. So
yeah.
And do you guys do residential and commercial appraisals?
We're just residential firm. Lawrenson Walker's a residential firm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When would clients use you outside of a purchase? Like, obviously I'm going to facilitate ordering it, but if somebody wanted to do like a private sale between family member or a separation agreement, that kind of stuff, like where do you guys provide value outside of like the lending channel?
I mean, it's the same thing. It's just, if it's a private request, it's the same as obviously the purpose is different than a purchase, but I would say lately the majority of our files have been refinances, especially in these market conditions. So, we do get a few legal files. The issue with legal files I've been finding lately is with all the upzoning now, where they want the actual true value if it's a legal file now, which we can do a hypothetical appraisal on, a potential lot that has, future development potential. Like, in Kelowna South North, a lot of this MF1 zoning might allow up to 6 units. And as residential appraisers, we can only appraise properties up to 4 units. So if it's for residential lending, we will reach out to our client or the lender and say, hey, are you okay with a hypothetical, appraisal value without taking in that future development potential into consideration, which is fine if they want that. But if they want, if it's a legal file for separation, they're going to want to know, what's this actually worth if I can put 6 or 8 units on this lot now, right? If I actually go through the development process. So we have been turning down those files now because it's just out of our scope now from the residential side. That has been a bit of an issue for those types of files. If it's a private request, same thing goes. If it's not for residential, we kind of have to refer those out to maybe a commercial appraiser now that can give them the true value that can take on, all the UC5 zoning may allow up to 6 stories now. We do a few of those, but if it's a private request, it's best that a commercial appraiser takes that file on now.
It's interesting. Maybe we can talk a little bit on like new construction for just single family then. You guys work in that space?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We do a lot of new construction, but I do feel lately builders have been holding off building as much as they were, just with the lot prices are pretty expensive now. The cost to build is expensive. And once you build out, you buy your lot for $750 with a lake view, you build a $1.5 million home, people aren't even willing to pay that price now after it's built. So,
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what I was going to ask is like you take two approaches, right? Like, the cost to build and then comparables for the market. Is it a pretty tough conversation right now to be like, yeah, these plans look great. Like the future value for comparables is probably going to land you at $2 million, but they're spending 2.5 to build. Like,
I've seen that a lot lately. Yeah.
yeah.
And budgets are all over the place. It depends who's actually doing the work, where we'll get really low budget. I'll tell our client, you can't build this house for 500,000, so we kind of have to go with what the market's actually going to cost, right? So we know what builders charge in certain locations. So we kind of already know like what the price per square foot's going to be to build that kind of house and what a pool actually is going to cost. It's not just going to cost you 50,000, likely over 100,000 if it's a nice pool, right? So, but lately, yeah, I have seen a lot of budgets coming in very high and the comparables just don't support what it costs to build anymore. So they do get a little tricky.
It is tough for a builder. Eh? We're not even talking about carrying costs for a year at high interest rates, right? Like that's just
Well, yeah,
tricky.
I'm curious. Do you have like a rule of thumb right now or something generic that you've kind of seen? Like, is the cost to build 10 to 15% more expensive than comparables right now? Like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how builders can justify continuing to build, which obviously a lot aren't right now,
Yeah.
but
A lot have slowed down. It depends when they bought their lot, right? Because a lot of the profits in there, if they got in when it was cheap, but a lot of the lots have, over doubled in value now. So, if they bought 5 or 10 lots at a good time, now they're sitting pretty good because all their profits still there, right? But if you have to go buy a lot now and there's not a lot out there right now and then build, it really doesn't make sense right now because people just aren't pulling the trigger on a lot of that high end stuff when, it's over, say, 2 million. Everything is just sitting there right now. So I think it's just a waiting game right now. So I think the market will turn in the spring though.
yeah. Well, what have you seen in the 2024 market and what do you think is going to happen in 2025? Crystal ball.
Oh,
Easy question.
I don't know. It's super easy. This question a lot, right? Like, should I list my house? Is it a good time to get the appraisal done? It's all based on interest rates, right? People just can't afford or qualify, but they are trying to improve things for first-time home buyers and the market in general. So I think, rates are trending the right way now. Hopefully on December 11th, we see another drop here. But like you guys know, it's very seasonal here in the Okanagan, but I don't feel like the real estate market has followed its normal trend where, January, February is slow, springtime it goes crazy, summertime slows down, fall it picks up again, winter it drops again. But lately after COVID, it's just been all over the place. Like,
Yes.
we've been extremely busy in our slowest times usually in the past, right? So
I guess with refinances, yeah. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So 2024 in the beginning was still slow because rates were still high, obviously.
Yeah.
Things are improving. I'm noticing that right around that million mark, a lot of buyers can still qualify, especially homes with suites, pretty desirable, But anything over that 1.5 mark, it's still pretty slow. I think people are waiting, but I do think that by like March, April, May next year, you're going to see some people jumping off the fence and getting back in the market and potentially see some multiple offer situations again in a heated up spring market here. So,
Right.
Hopefully.
So buy now.
by now, you're going to probably, yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but there's some deals out there right now, right? If you can
There are
afford
some
it.
deals out there. There definitely are some deals out there.
Yeah.
So do you get a lot of questions about appraisal versus assessment value? Like I answer this question all the time, but I'm wondering from your point of view, how do you answer that question?
We do. I mean, they're all over the place, like, right?
Yeah.
And we always tell our clients, before you order the appraisal and you think it's 2 million, like do a little bit of homework, like take a look at the property, see what you're really dealing with, and see if the value is actually going to be even close to that. I mean, BC assessment is kind of a good starting point just to get an idea of, okay, well, it's assessed here. But lately I have been noticing that a lot of the values have been coming in below assessed value. Once again, it's not for every property. Every location's so different up here, from a newer house, from an older house, from, Rutland to Upper Mission. They're all over the place. And, BC assessment doesn't know if they actually put a pool in sometimes, if they've renovated the place. So there's a lot of factors that can be missed. That's why an appraisal is always good to actually pinpoint a value, but at least BC assessment kind of gives you a starting point. And keep in mind, like BC assessment, those values are based on July dates, right? So
Yeah.
market can shift quite a bit from July to where we are now, right? But it is a good starting point to get an idea of where it might fall in. So we always tell our clients if they're really unsure, do a bit of homework. And we do offer a pre-estimate service. If you're really unsure, you can reach out to us and we can try to like ballpark where it may come in at. If it's even worth getting the appraisal done, if you're already like 300K short, well, maybe hold off until the market picks up a bit, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. What does that service entail?
So it's a free service we offer to our clients. And if there's enough information online, and it's not a super complex property, we can kind of have a decent idea of where it might fall. The gap might be pretty large we provide, but at least it kind of gives you an idea of like if you even have a chance to get the deal done or not. So
I'll send you a property right after the show then.
perfect.
Got a refi on the go and there's a big gap. So
Yeah, saves time and money. So
yeah. What's like the most detrimental thing that you see clients do to their house that kind of devalues it? And then on the opposite to that is like, what's the biggest value add that people can do, like pre getting an appraisal or pre selling their house, whether it's a simple, like, clean up and paint some walls and brighten up the space, light fixtures, or like as big as, hey, bathrooms or garages, or like what's kind of the biggest value add and what's the biggest mistake people make?
well, typically, kitchens go a long ways. If you spend some decent money on a kitchen and bathrooms, I see like that's the best way to add value to your house. The worst thing to do, I think, is having the nicest house in the street. And if you're not in the greatest area and you've just spent $30,000 on a fridge that you really like, and we see that, they say, well, look at this fridge. It's got to be worth 50. Well, maybe don't overspend just for yourself because you like it, because it doesn't mean the market's going to like it.
Yeah.
So we've seen some renovations in areas that aren't the greatest where, that could be a bit of a waste of time and money where you're not probably going to get it back, right? And just overspending on things that just the market's not willing to pay extra for, you're probably going to lose that money. And we always tell our clients if they're doing a purchase plus improvements to get the appraisal done before they start ripping apart the kitchen and the house, because if the lender wants the as is value, you've actually taken away value from the property. So I would suggest and give advice to your clients saying, like, if you're doing a purchase plus improvements, to just hold off on the renovation until you get the appraisal done before you start ripping the house apart, because you're actually taking value away from your house if you start that renovation a little too early.
It seems wild that you have to state that, but I run into the same issue.
Yeah.
hey guys, like we need to get the appraisal done. Just like don't do anything to the house, leave appliances, whatever. And then you see the photos and like, half the house is missing. You're like, what did you expect was going to happen?
Avoid that if you can. So yeah.
Okay.
So what's the difference that you see between a house having a legal suite and a non-conforming suite? Like, is there a big appraisal difference when you go through a house like that?
I mean, it definitely adds value when I have a legal suite for sure. 100% definitely adds value. I mean, it's done to code. It's got, the right construction done. It's got the extra insulation in the house. So it definitely adds value. I mean, every suite, in my opinion, in this current market definitely adds value to the overall market. It's that extra rent you can get. And the rental market, there's a lot going on in the rental market right now, but I do think that people are always going to need space to rent. So I do see a lot of demand for homes that have that secondary suite in it. So it definitely adds value having the suite and the right setup of a suite, not one that you share the backyard with maybe. So, all suites are set up differently, but if you can have one where you don't even notice your tenants there, those are usually the best, not sharing the yard with them or, having it off to a certain area of the house where you can't really hear them as much definitely adds value. So, and legal suites definitely add more value than a non-legal suite. We try to avoid that term legal in our reports. We either say like it either conforms to the zoning or it doesn't basically. And the majority of the zoning here in Kelowna and the Fraser Valley and everywhere do allow a suite, but that doesn't really necessarily mean it's actually a legal suite. So we do avoid using that term. But if zoning does permit a suite, we will say, yes, the zoning does allow the suite. And we don't confirm if it's actually a legal suite. It's out of our scope to contact the city and say, hey, this address has a suite. Can you tell me if it's legal or not? Because then they may go knock on the door.
Yeah.
And then you have an issue. So that is out of our scope to confirm all that information. So we do definitely just go by if the RU1 zoning allows a secondary suite, then in our reports we'll say, yes, this zoning does allow for a suite. So.
Okay, interesting.
In terms of like Purchase Plus, I mean, there are grants and new legislation being changed for, basically adding suites and basements, and that's coming up in 2025. Do you guys do a Purchase Plus improvement market evaluation for clients before they start that project? And you say like, yes, if you did add a suite in this location and it was a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, et cetera, we would probably come back in 6 months and appraise it at, X amount of dollars more. Like, is that a service you provide? So it takes the guesswork out? Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And even if they want a hypothetical value of, of a 2 bedroom suite being built in the house, we can give the hypothetical if the lender is willing to accept that. Mm-hmm. And we can also give you a hypothetical rent on a suite to be built. We get that quite a bit, actually. They've bought the house, it's got an unfinished basement, and the lender will say, yeah, like what is the potential rent it can get once the suite's built? And we can provide that service as well.
That's a really good point that I think a lot of people don't know of those programs is you can do exactly that, like projected income on that hypothetical suite. And then we can use that projected income in the application to help the approval.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing. So if anyone out there is looking to basically switch over their suite, obviously contact Derek and, talk about those numbers.
Yep, anytime.
Derek, I had a question about GST when you're selling a new build. Like, I know you can finance GST, but when you do your appraisal, like your prices include GST or?
It does. Yeah. So if we do a new build, we'll say, that final complete value is 2.5 and that includes the net GST. Yeah.
Okay.
And so for vacant lot sales, though, we always say plus applicable GST because it's always negotiable. You don't know if it's actually GST on top of that. So for vacant land, we do it the opposite way. Well, we'll say plus applicable GST if it is applicable on that lot sale, if it's already been paid maybe. So, but for any new construction, we always include the net GST in the final value. And for pre-sales as well, right? So, a lot of pre-sales are completing here in Kelowna. Yeah. There's a ton coming up here. So,
because the posted sales prices are not going to have GST.
That's right.
You just assume that all the comparables are plus GST, but then yours is including GST?
Yes. So, we try to avoid comparables that actually haven't completed yet for like high rises.
Okay.
So, we might select like a 1-year-old condo where we know that the GST is already including that sale price, right? Or if it's an assignment, we will call that listing realtor and say, hey, was there GST on top of the 459 or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And if they say, no, it's plus GST, like, typically it is plus GST that's posted on MLS, unless the realtor has mentioned that in the comments.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of developments that are starting to close in the coming months here. Are you seeing those be assigned for a lesser value than what they sold for 3 years ago?
Not quite yet. I think over the next 6 months, as more complete and hit the market, we'll have a better idea of where they're coming in at. So we just did close to 50 appraisals in one new building, and it was sold in 2021. And we pretty much were able to meet the purchase price on all those units. It was a good time to buy. I know there's a few coming up that have pre-sold in 2022 in April when the market spiked. Those may be a little tricky to reach those pre-sale prices, just the way the condo market's going as well. And with the new Airbnb rules.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Does that change of use affect the appraisal?
Yeah, I think it's going to change the whole economy here, actually, in Kelowna itself. I mean, it's a vacationville, right? Like, people rely on Airbnb. And, this summer, I didn't even really notice many tourists come up. The roads are pretty quiet. It wasn't the same feel as it usually is, right? So I don't think that's a good thing, especially for the condo market. And, restaurants and everybody, people just aren't coming up and wanting to spend $900 at the Grand. And, it's very expensive to come up now. So with the lack of Airbnb units available.
Yeah. And like you point out, like, it's not just those units that are affected, because, it hurts restaurants and everyone else that's working in this supported economy by that. So even if someone's in a single family home, like, they're probably still seeing the ripple effect of that.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you see opportunity in the market right now? Or where do you see kind of the most transactions or most undervalued assets? Like, Matt and I have kind of discussed before on the show, like, condo market seems like it's going to be flat for a while, especially with all the product coming online. Are you seeing like single family homes with suites, moving at a faster pace? Or what are you looking to buy in the next couple of years as an investor?
Well, I mean, the market that's moving the best right now is, single family under that 1-2 mark. I've been seeing, there's a lot of activity there, and that's usually where it usually starts, at the lower end market, and moves up if you go over that 1-5 mark. But I mean, I think the best opportunity right now is to find something between that 1.5 and 2 million mark that's actually worth 2 million. And you can pick some of those up for a pretty good deal right now, and do that upgrade if you're looking to, get into that nicer house and get that space. I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's quite a few listings out there, super nice homes that usually aren't available. And right now you can get out there and kind of pick your favorite one, work on a good price. So that could change in the spring. So, and lakefront properties, I mean, they're lakefront properties, down by Hobson. I mean, those don't really change too much. There's a lot of money down there, so they don't really necessarily need to drop their prices. They'll just wait for the right buyer to come through and pick it up. So it's weird how those don't really change. And typically the buyer for that doesn't really care about interest rates. They've usually coming in with a cash offer, usually coming up from the coast or somewhere. So it's weird how that market doesn't really change too much. I feel. So
I think it's such a good time to upgrade, or not upgrade, but like upsize if someone's looking for that larger home or more space. As a whole, the market's obviously lower. So now's the time to kind of sell at a loss and then make up for it on the purchase side. It's kind of a tough one for people to swallow. Like,
well, and people are budging on their prices, which is good. Overall, the prices haven't really dropped too much, really, because people just don't want to give their homes away here. I mean, there's a lot of wealth here in the Okanagan, so I don't think people are really forced to sell. We had a few listings up by our place here, and people they took them off the market because they weren't willing to just give them away. And maybe they'll relist in the spring, but not really seeing people just giving their homes away. They're keeping them.
There has not, like, we've talked about this before, but like, seems like the media narrative that there's just so many distressed sellers, when it's just not like that in reality. Like,
no,
I totally agree with you that most people will just wait.
Yeah.
Right. They'll just wait for the right price. And
obviously
there always are a few here and there, but like, they're not enough to bring down the market.
No. I mean, it's a pretty desirable place to live, as we all know. So I think it'll just keep getting better.
Even if you went to like, fire sale your property, there's so many people on the sidelines, like pent up demand waiting.
Yes.
It's not going to go for way undervalued. Like, people are just going to start buying those if there is value there. So,
yeah.
All right. If you could give your 20-year-old self any piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think just working on building those trusted business relationships and partnerships right from the start. Kelowna has been a great area to, build this business up. There's a lot of good people that work here, and we've built up a lot of great relationships and trusted relationships. I think that's the number one thing, is just getting out there and meeting people. It goes a long ways in this business, at least.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree totally.
There are so many good professionals in the Kelowna market. Like, I mean, I don't know any other markets, but like from lawyers to appraisers, that like everyone here just seems to want to work together collectively. Yeah. So yeah,
for sure.
It's nice to see.
Yeah.
What's your favorite charity, or how do you guys give back?
We do charity for Canucks Place. That's a good one for us. Also had some family history there too, so it's close to my heart. So that's a pretty good one that we kind of focus on. We've also helped out and donated to Ukraine in the past. So there's quite a few. So you kind of have to select the ones that you kind of stick with and go from there. So
good for you. Those are awesome. All right, Derek, how can we, Taylor or I, help you?
Stop sending them rush deals on a Friday.
No, I'll be here. I'll get them out no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess just relaying your experience to other potential, clients or, people that you work with in the industry, letting them know how your experience has been with our firm. We operate a little differently, where we like to build up our relationships. We feel like we're in the customer service industry rather than just providing a product for our clients. So we get on the phone, we'll discuss the values with them after hours, before, when we get to work, anytime. So it's always good to just, rather than send the appraisal through, if you have any questions, we're there to answer your questions and kind of just give you a reasoning why we're coming in where we are. And yeah, we just want to have that customer service level and just go above and beyond for our clients and, pick up the phone, call them, and build that relationship up. So that's why I think we stand out a little bit more than some others, is we really focus on the customer service part of our business and the appraisal side.
Yeah, absolutely. I can vouch for that. You guys are incredible. And, for the cost of transaction of, buying $1 million house, the fee for an appraisal is so small and comparable that, if you're trying to save $50 between one appraiser or the other, like having somebody that does the report correctly on time, provides it to allow you to remove subjects, or just, highlights any issues with the property, like it's an insurance at this point, right? Like it really is a necessary insurance. So yeah, I've always appreciated working with you guys. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I think the second review process helps too, because, the odd thing can get missed in there. So having that second set of eyes really goes a long ways. And from somebody that's actually focusing on that specific market also goes a long ways too. So
yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you. So keep up the good work out there. As soon as you know of any, fire sales, let Matt and I know about it.
Okay, will do. Take care, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.